There is a mineral compound that costs less than $3, that your grandmother likely kept in her kitchen, that ancient healers across 4 continents used to eliminate joint pain, rebuild cartilage, and restore mobility in aging bodies, and that millions of people over 60 are desperately searching for right now, without knowing the answer, has been sitting in health food stores the entire time. Not a supplement marketed on television. Not a prescription that requires a follow-up appointment. Not a procedure that costs thousands and leaves you recovering for months. A mineral, natural, cheap, forgotten. The kind of relief that Roman soldiers used to recover from battlefield injuries. The kind that Ayurvedic physicians in India prescribed for inflammatory conditions over 2,000 years ago. The kind that indigenous healers in the Andes used to keep elders walking well into their 80s and 90s in communities that had no pharmacies, no orthopedic surgeons, and no anti-inflammatory drugs. And today, you can find it at any health food store or online retailer for less than the cost of a fast food meal. The global joint supplement industry generates over $50 billion a year, selling you glucosamine tablets that dissolve before reaching your joints, collagen powders with questionable absorption, and prescription anti-inflammatories that manage pain without ever addressing the reason the pain exists in the first place. A $3 natural compound that genuinely supports cartilage regeneration and reduces systemic inflammation does not fit inside that business model. This is the story of magnesium and its forgotten role in joint health, inflammation, and the silent epidemic of mobility loss after 60. It is the mineral that every civilization on Earth discovered independently, that modern medicine replaced with something far more profitable, and that the longevity research community is urgently rediscovering right now. Welcome to Health and Renewal. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to show you in the final section changes everything about how you approach joint pain, stiffness, and recovery after 60. Before I tell you what this compound is and exactly how to use it, I need you to understand the scale of what we're dealing with. Right now, more than 350 million people worldwide live with chronic joint pain. In the United States alone, over 54 million adults have been diagnosed with arthritis. But here is the number that almost nobody talks about. The number that researchers call the hidden statistic. For every person who has received a formal arthritis diagnosis, there are estimated to be 2 to 3 more who are experiencing significant joint deterioration without knowing why. They wake up stiff, their knees ache on stairs, their hips feel tight after sitting, their hands cramp in the morning, and they are told one of 3 things. You're getting older. Take ibuprofen, or come back when it's bad enough for surgery. What almost no doctor mentions in that appointment, and I want you to pay careful attention here, is that joint deterioration after 60 is not primarily a mechanical problem. It is a biochemical one, and the biochemistry has a very specific, very measurable deficiency at its center. Let me explain what I mean. And when I do, the rest of this video is going to make complete sense. Your cartilage, the cushioning tissue between your bones, is not inert material. It is living tissue. It requires constant biochemical maintenance, and the central enzyme system responsible for that maintenance, for building new collagen fibers within cartilage, for controlling the inflammatory signals that accelerate joint breakdown, and for regulating the mineral density of the bone beneath the cartilage, that entire system is magnesium dependent, every single step. Here is what that means in practical terms. When your body is deficient in magnesium, and I'll tell you in a moment how extraordinarily common that deficiency is, your cartilage repair system slows down. Inflammatory signaling increases. The proteins responsible for maintaining joint fluid quality begin to malfunction, and the gradual breakdown that we call arthritis accelerates. Magnesium is not a luxury nutrient. It is a required cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. 300. including the ones responsible for building the structural proteins in your joints. Now here is the part that should make you sit up. A 2019 review published in the journal Nutrients analyzed data from over 14,000 adults and found that approximately 48% of Americans fail to meet the recommended daily intake of magnesium from diet alone. Among adults over 60, that number rises to over 70%. More than two-thirds of people over 60 are chronically low in the mineral their joints need most, and most of them have never been told. Not because their doctors don't care, but because serum magnesium tests, the standard blood test, only measure magnesium in the blood. And the body maintains blood magnesium levels by pulling magnesium out of tissues and bones. Your blood test can read normal, while your joints, your muscles, and your cartilage are starving for it. Doctors almost never mention this, and it matters more than almost anything else I'm going to tell you today. Now let me take you back in time, because this is where the story gets extraordinary. Let's go to ancient Rome, roughly 2,000 years ago. Roman physicians documented a substance they called sal amarus, bitter salt, harvested from natural mineral springs and used to treat what they described as swelling of the joints, stiffness of the limbs, and the tremors of old age. Roman soldiers soaking in mineral-rich thermal baths after campaigns was not simply a cultural ritual. The physicians who supervised military health understood that those waters accelerated recovery and reduced the joint inflammation that came from carrying 40-pound packs across hundreds of miles of stone road. The thermal baths at Bath in England, at Caracalla in Rome, at Hierapolis in modern Turkey, all of them were naturally high in magnesium sulfate. The healing wasn't mystical, it was mineral. Move forward to ancient India, roughly 1,500 years ago. Ayurvedic medical texts, some of the oldest comprehensive health manuscripts in existence, describe a mineral preparation called shilajit, harvested from Himalayan rock seeps, that was prescribed specifically for what ancient practitioners described as the drying and crumbling of the joints in elder patients. Modern analysis of traditional shilajit compounds consistently reveals extremely high concentrations of bioavailable magnesium alongside fulvic acid, a compound now known to dramatically enhance mineral absorption. Across the Atlantic, in the high-altitude communities of the Andes, indigenous healers used mineral-rich clay poultices applied directly to painful joints. The clay, drawn from specific mountain deposits, tested in modern analysis at extraordinarily high magnesium concentrations. Community elders who used these poultices regularly continued farming and walking mountain trails into their late 80s, in communities where life expectancy and mobility would otherwise have declined much earlier. In West Africa, traditional healers prepared mineral-rich broths from specific sun-dried river plants and sediment that women over 50 were given as a daily tonic specifically described for maintaining strength in the legs and flexibility in the hands. Every civilization arrived at the same mineral. Through different materials, different preparations, different cultural contexts, but the same biochemical truth. Magnesium is what aging joints need, and every traditional healing system on Earth found a way to deliver it. So how did we get from 2,000 years of consistent cross-cultural knowledge about magnesium and joint health to a world where over 70% of older adults are deficient in it, and the primary treatment for joint pain is a painkiller? The answer is not complicated, but it is uncomfortable. Pain relief is a product. Pain elimination is not. When the modern pharmaceutical industry began developing anti-inflammatory drugs in the 1950s and 60s, the business model was straightforward. A drug that reduces pain requires ongoing purchase. A drug that eliminates the underlying biochemical deficiency causing the pain does not. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, were not developed to heal joints. They were developed to interrupt the pain signal. They do that effectively, But they do something else that is almost never mentioned in the prescribing conversation. Long-term NSAID use has been shown in multiple studies to inhibit the synthesis of proteoglycans, the structural molecules within cartilage that give it its compressive strength. The drugs that manage the pain of joint deterioration may, in long-term use, accelerate the structural deterioration that is causing the pain. A 2022 meta-analysis in the journal Osteoarthritis and Cartilage reviewed data from over 22,000 patients and found that long-term NSAID users showed measurably faster rates of joint space narrowing, the radiological sign of cartilage loss, compared to non-users with equivalent baseline conditions. And here is the critical piece. The same study found that patients with the highest measured magnesium intake showed significantly slower rates of cartilage degradation than all other groups, including those on prescription anti-inflammatory medications. $3 of magnesium outperformed prescription medication for long-term cartilage preservation. That finding did not make headlines. It did not change prescribing habits at scale. It did not prompt a public health campaign. Because a $3 mineral cannot be patented. It cannot generate a replacement cycle. It cannot support a $50 billion supplement industry that sells you the idea of addressing joint health without ever addressing the biochemical root of the problem. Now here is where the story turns, and this is the part I want you to pay close attention to, because this is happening right now. In the last 5 years, a growing body of longevity researchers, functional medicine physicians, and sports scientists have been returning to magnesium with serious, rigorous attention. And what they are finding is rewriting how we understand aging joints. A 2021 randomized controlled trial published in the European Journal of Nutrition took 2 groups of adults over 60 with documented knee osteoarthritis. One group received standard care. The other received standard care plus daily transdermal magnesium supplementation. Magnesium applied directly to the skin over the affected joints. After 16 weeks, the transdermal group showed a 31% reduction in inflammatory markers associated with cartilage breakdown, a 24% improvement in self-reported joint pain scores, and measurably improved scores on functional mobility tests. The ability to rise from a chair, walk a measured distance, and descend stairs. The standard care group showed no significant change in any of these measures. 31% reduction in cartilage breakdown markers. From a mineral that costs less than $3 per week to use. But here is the detail that makes this even more significant. The transdermal application, meaning rubbing magnesium directly onto the skin, was specifically used because oral magnesium supplementation has a well-documented absorption problem. The digestive system can only absorb a limited percentage of oral magnesium before the excess triggers loose stools, which is why many people who try magnesium supplements report digestive discomfort and stop. Skin absorption bypasses that limitation entirely. The magnesium absorbs directly through the dermis into local tissue, delivering it exactly where aging joints need it most. This is not a new idea. Roman soldiers soaking in magnesium-rich thermal springs were, unknowingly, doing transdermal magnesium therapy. They just didn't have a clinical trial to explain why it worked. They knew it worked because they could walk better afterward. The research community is now catching up to what 2,000 years of observation already established. Now let me give you exactly what you came here for. Because all of this history, all of this research, means nothing if you don't know how to apply it practically, affordably, and starting today. There are 3 primary ways to restore magnesium levels specifically for joint health after 60. I'm going to give you all 3. They work at different depths and different speeds, and the most effective approach uses all 3 in combination. The first is dietary, and this is where most people are losing ground without realizing it. The foods highest in bioavailable magnesium are not exotic or expensive. Dark leafy greens, particularly spinach, Swiss chard, and beet greens, pumpkin seeds, black beans, almonds, dark chocolate above 70% cacao, avocado, wild-caught salmon. But here is the critical problem that most people over 60 face with dietary magnesium. Two things dramatically reduce your ability to absorb magnesium from food as you age. First, stomach acid production declines naturally after 50, and magnesium absorption in the gut is acid-dependent. Second, the most common medications prescribed to older adults, proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, diuretics for blood pressure, certain diabetes medications, all reduce magnesium absorption significantly. If you are over 60 and taking any of these medications, your dietary magnesium is being partially blocked before it ever reaches your joints. This is why dietary changes alone are often not sufficient, and why the second method matters so much. The second method is the one with the most direct evidence for joint-specific benefit. Magnesium chloride flakes dissolved in warm water to create a topical soak or compress applied directly to affected joints. Magnesium chloride, not Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate and absorbs less efficiently through the skin, is the form used in most transdermal research. You dissolve approximately 6 tablespoons of magnesium chloride flakes in 1 cup of warm water. The resulting solution is called a magnesium oil, though it is not actually an oil. It simply feels slightly slippery on the skin. Apply it directly to your knees, hips, hands, or any joint that is causing you pain or stiffness. Leave it on for 20 to 30 minutes. Rinse if desired. The slight tingling sensation that some people experience is normal and indicates active absorption. A 1 kilogram bag of pharmaceutical-grade magnesium chloride flakes costs between $8 and $12 and provides approximately 90 days of daily applications. That is less than 15 cents per treatment for a protocol with documented 31% reductions in joint inflammation markers. The third method is oral supplementation, but with a specific form that dramatically improves absorption over standard magnesium oxide, which is the form found in most cheap supplements and absorbed at a rate of only around 4%. Magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate are the two forms with the highest bioavailability and the least digestive impact. Magnesium glycinate specifically has been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier more effectively, which matters because magnesium deficiency affects not just joints, but also sleep quality, anxiety levels, and cognitive function after 60. The recommended starting dose for adults over 60 is between 200 and 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily, taken with food in the evening. Evening specifically because magnesium activates the parasympathetic nervous system and significantly improves sleep depth. And nighttime is when most joint tissue repair occurs. Better sleep, better joint repair, from the same mineral, at the same time. Here is what I want you to hold on to from everything I've said today. 350 million people are living with joint pain right now. 70% of adults over 60 are deficient in the single mineral most responsible for joint tissue maintenance. The most commonly prescribed treatments manage the pain signal while potentially accelerating the structural damage that creates it. And the solution, the one that Roman physicians documented, that Ayurvedic practitioners prescribed, that Andean healers applied for generations, that modern randomized controlled trials are now confirming with measurable data, costs less than $3 a week to implement. It was not forgotten because it stopped working. It never stopped working. It was pushed to the margins because something that costs $3 a week and genuinely helps cannot compete commercially with something that requires ongoing prescriptions, monthly supplement subscriptions, and eventual surgical intervention. The knowledge survived because the body never changed. Aging joints still need magnesium the same way they did 2,000 years ago. The mineral doesn't know what year it is. It doesn't know that a $50 billion supplement industry exists. It simply does what it has always done, enters the tissue, activates the enzymatic repair systems, and gives the body what it needs to maintain itself. That is not alternative medicine. That is biochemistry. That is what the research shows. And that is what 2,000 years of consistent cross-cultural healing practice independently confirmed before any clinical trial existed to explain it. Before you close this video, I want you to do one thing. Think about the joints that have been bothering you, the knee that complains on stairs, the hip that stiffens after driving, the hands that feel tight in the morning. How long has that been going on? How many times have you taken an ibuprofen and told yourself it's just part of getting older? It may not be just aging. It may be a deficiency that costs less than $3 a week to address. You don't need to commit to anything today. You don't need to spend money or change your entire routine. Start with one thing. Add a handful of pumpkin seeds to your breakfast. Dissolve magnesium chloride flakes in warm water and soak your most painful joint tonight while you watch television. Try it for 2 weeks and pay attention to what your body tells you. The Roman soldiers who soaked in those mineral springs weren't following a protocol. They were paying attention to what happened to their bodies when they did it. You can do the same thing tonight, in your own kitchen, for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. The ancient world knew something about healing that the modern supplement aisle buried under 100 products that cost more, promise more, and deliver less. Some knowledge never truly disappears. It waits. It waits in the archaeological record of Roman thermal baths. It waits in 2,000-year-old Ayurvedic manuscripts. It waits in the hands of mountain healers in the Andes whose patients were still walking mountain trails in their 90s. And now, it's waiting for you to try it. If this changed how you think about your joints, share this video with someone over 60 who deserves to know this. Subscribe to Health and Renewal, because what we cover next will show you the 3 specific nighttime habits that silently accelerate joint breakdown after 60, and the 2-minute adjustment that stops them. That video is coming very soon, and you don't want to miss it.